That behind me is my 757-300, and I'm taking it to Kona today. Hello viewers, and welcome back to my channel. I'm at the Seattle airport today, and I'm off to the big island of Hawaii in the Aloha State. And as usual, I'm going to provide lots of detail on how to get from the Pacific Northwest to the tropics. You'll hear air traffic control transmissions and lots of particulars, so let's go flying. This 757-300 just got in from Minneapolis, and I can't wait to board this really long airplane. It's a 300 series, so that means it's a stretched version. At nearly 180 feet long, it's the longest twin-engine narrow-body aircraft type in the world. Today I'll be sitting in the first class cabin of this very, very large aircraft. I'm excited about this. I'm gonna head right on over to gate A2, which is right near the Delta Sky Club where I started this video. Today's flight will have the call sign Delta 565. All right, we are getting ready to board the 757. Have any of you flown on the 757-300? Let me know in the comments section below. Today I'm expecting to depart on one of the runway 16s and then head to the south and then make a right-hand turn to the Pacific Ocean to Hawaii. That's what I thought, but as we taxied out, the airport began to undergo a runway configuration from south to north. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Oh, and notice how the jet bridge blocks my view. The boarding door is actually behind me, so when I boarded this airplane, I turned left to get to my seat, 6A, the last row of first class. All 234 passengers are on board, the boarding door has been closed, and the jet bridge is being moved back away from the aircraft. Let's go to Kona. We're all set to push back. The ground crew is in place to ensure we stay clear of obstructions, and the ramp controller tells us that we can push back as soon as an Air Canada plane behind us gets out of the way.
So 565, you're going to wait for Air Canada dash H pass and push tail east and push east.
It's now time to begin movement for our great journey today. In the meantime, the airport is in the middle of a flow change. I mentioned that we would be taking off on the 16s today, but the airport operations is changing directions. Let's listen into the ground controller tell the first aircraft, Asiana Flight 271 to Seoul, that he'll be taking off in the opposite direction on runway 34 right. This flight, like ours, was expected to take off to the south, but will instead be taking off to the north. We'll be departing right behind Asiana.
Asiana 271 Heavy, we are in the middle of a flow change. I don't think you're going to make it out for the 16, so you can plan on 34 right for departure.
34 right departure.
I'm just going to hold you there for a little while until we get the flow change done. It's probably going to be about 10 minutes. Asiana 271 Heavy, I'm have you actually go ahead and taxi runway 34 right via Bravo.
Right now, change to runway 34 right via Bravo.
Asiana 271 Heavy, affirmative.
Now, the controller lets everyone on the ground control frequency know about the flow change.
Attention to the aircraft on frequency, we are doing a flow change, expect 34 right for departure if you haven't taxied out yet.
Once the tug is removed from our aircraft, we contact the ground controller, and the controller informs us of the runway change to runway 34 right, and that taxiway Bravo will take us there.
Delta 565, ground, roger, doing the flow change now, so taxi runway 34 right via Bravo.
We're going to taxi around the South Satellite Concourse, then make a left turn onto taxiway Bravo all the way to the runway. This is a very interesting time to be departing the Seattle airport. Seattle has 3 parallel runways, and they're all in a north-south direction. All morning, flights were landing to the south, but when airport operation calls for a runway change, a lot of coordination must occur, and it's not just here at the airport. Controllers in the approach control facility that guide aircraft towards the runway have to vector the last few aircraft in the southerly flow, while aircraft that are further out need to be vectored toward the north for the northerly flow. The first arrivals to the north cannot land until the last aircraft landing to the south has landed, so the controller may have some extra juggling of aircraft to do in the air. The ground controller must also maintain a smooth operation, ensuring that the last few departures for the southern flow taxi to the runway, while the next batch of aircraft taxi out for the northern flow. On top of this, the ground controller must also ensure that the last few arriving aircraft from the southern flow land and taxi to the ramp, and shortly after that, arrivals from the northern flow will land and taxi to the ramp, vacating the runways from a different point. Because of a runway change, we're just going to have to hold over here for a couple of minutes. The airport is switching from a southerly operation to a northerly operation. On the tower control frequency, which we've switched to, the controller ensures departures wait until the departure airspace, which was once the arrival airspace, is free and clear of arrivals. Today, the switch from the southern flow to the northern flow was rather quick, and we were issued takeoff clearance on runway 34 right behind Asiana.
Delta 565, wind 2308, runway 34 right, clear for takeoff.
We are off to Kona. We're taking off on runway 34 right, which is one of the 3 parallel runways here at SeaTac. You can't see the other 2 runways yet, as this one is longer than the others, but we'll be able to see them soon. The runway we're on is 11,901 feet long, and we're the second aircraft today to be using it in this direction. All the controllers did a fantastic job coordinating the runway change. As we speed up, we actually see an aircraft that landed on the southern flow that has not yet crossed our runway to taxi to the ramp. What's most important, for safety reasons, is that this aircraft is not in the air. This aircraft is the last aircraft that flew the approach on the southerly flow. All future arrivals are to the south of the airport, approaching to the north. Our 757-300 is picking up speed. Our plane today is powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney 2037 engines. This airplane has been flying since 2002 and is almost 20 years old. Originally delivered to Northwest Airlines, it became part of Delta in 2009. I'm lucky to be flying on this aircraft type today, as the 757-300 is very rare, and as often as I fly Delta, this type does not serve many routes that I fly often. As we become airborne, we fly out to the north, and the tower controller hands us off to the departure controller.
Delta 565, contact departure.
The departure controller is in the same facility as the approach controller, who had the task of coordinating arrivals during the runway change. The departure controller is now handling the northern flow of departures after having just completed working the southern flow of departures. We're the second northerly flow departure after Asiana. Let's check in.
Departure Delta 565, passing 2,500 for 9,000. Delta 565, Seattle departure, radar contact.
Our initial assigned altitude is 9,000 feet, and the controller acknowledged that he has contact with us on his radar as he's not located in the airport control tower. Today, we're flying an RNAV departure procedure called the Harab 6 departure. The initial climb out in the Harab 6 departure calls for us to fly straight out, runway heading, and just around the point where we reach downtown Seattle to the north, we'll be making a series of 4 left turns, some greater than others, until we wind up on a 210-degree heading. That's southwest, which makes sense because our destination in the Hawaiian archipelago is to the southwest of Seattle. Aircraft fly in different departure procedures based upon their routing. For example, the Asiana aircraft that's flying ahead of us is flying the Bangor 9 departure procedure, which calls for the same initial climb out, but once near downtown, the left turn ends up on more of a westerly heading, which brings that airplane to a point where it can start its Pacific routing towards Korea. We're still climbing, and at this point, the controller sees that we can climb to a higher altitude and provides a new altitude for us to climb to.
Delta 565, climbing to 15,000. I maintain 15,000, Delta 565.
Looking back at the airport, we can see the 3 parallel runways. We took off on the runway closest to the terminal. The 3 runways don't intersect, making the airport very efficient. As I zoom out, you get a good sense of where the airport is located. We're now over the Elliott Bay area of Puget Sound. We're in a series of turns that will eventually allow us to fly to the southwest. Looking behind us, we can see the high-rise buildings of downtown Seattle. As we complete the turn, we have an even better view of the airport that we just took off from. Can you see that aircraft landing? That's one of the first few arrivals in the northerly flow since the runway change occurred.
Delta 565, contact Seattle Center 128.3.
This is followed by a stunning view of Mount Rainier, an active volcano that reaches over 14,000 feet. This is a sight to behold and a popular photo op for passengers flying into and out of Seattle. We're going to maintain this heading for some time before we turn 23 degrees to the right towards a navigational aid at Hoquiam, Washington. It's at Hoquiam where we complete the RNAV departure procedure, then start our en route phase of flight across the Pacific Ocean. Clouds started to dominate the view below, so I wasn't able to see the point where we left the US mainland. There's not a lot of seawall over the ocean, so I'll skip the view from the en route phase of flight. I did get a nice pasta meal shortly after we began our Pacific crossing. However, we're going to fast forward around 5 hours as we approach the Hawaiian archipelago. Today, we'll be landing in Kona, a city and airport on the west side of Hawaii's Big Island. We're approaching the airport from the northeast toward the island of Oahu, and once north of Maui, we will turn left over Maui's east coast, then head straight on into runway 17 at Kona. We start our descent over the Pacific Ocean with no land in sight, and then make left turns towards Kona. As we descended, knowing that Maui would be on the right side of the plane, I found a window on that side to catch a glimpse of the volcano Haleakala. Back on the left side, I began to see Hawaii's Big Island where we will be landing today. I specifically chose a seat on the left side of the airplane for the view of the northwest coast of the island. We're descending under the control of ATC and will eventually be handed off to the control tower for landing clearance. I'll provide ATC audio for our flight once we contact the control tower, so keep listening for that. The large mountain that you see in the distance is actually not a mountain, but a volcano. It's called Mauna Kea, and it's just under 14,000 feet tall. We're below that altitude. This is Hawaii's highest point, and I'll be going up to its summit during my trip here to the Big Island. This island, also known as Hawaii Island, is a very volcanic island and a really unique place, so I'm glad I get to see it with my seat on the left side of the airplane. As we make final arrangements for the approach, we line up with runway 17 and contact the control tower for clearance to land.
Delta 56 South Go Tower, runway 17, clear land.
We are cleared to land on runway 17, which is directly in front of our 757-300 now. This is a single runway airport. Single runways can be common in airports with light traffic like this one, but uncommon at major airports. An exception is San Diego Airport, which serves a city with a very large population, but the airport only has one runway. I've got a video about San Diego's single runway operation a few videos back, but for a small airport like this, a single runway is sufficient. What makes this runway unique is that it's built on a lava flow. You can actually see a lot of the lava along the coast as we get closer to the airport. This is a very volcanic island, and hardened lava can be found in many locations. Each Hawaiian island is unique. This very volcanic island is very diverse, and it's got multiple climate zones. As we get closer to the airport, you'd think that we were landing on another planet, but this is a tropical island here in Hawaii. The 11,000-foot runway in front of us is more than sufficient to handle our aircraft. There's also a parallel taxiway, and the ramp is on the east side of the airport. The airport itself not only serves Kona, but the entire western side of the island. Another airport on the eastern side is located at Hilo. Kona Airport has more traffic, as well as international carriers. The airport is named after Ellison Onizuka, an astronaut who perished in the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster in 1986. Wait till you see this airport's terminal. Hawaiian airports are very outdoorsy. We're on final approach and all set to land with our gear down and flaps set. The runway is also being used for departures, but at the time of my arrival, there were no departing flights, so the tower controller did not have to concern himself with fitting in departures between arrivals. Let's land. As we slow down, the controller has us vacate the runway to the left so we can park and deplane.
Delta 565, left to Golf taxiway, taxi Golf Alpha to parking.
Was that for hotel for Delta 565?
565, correction, yeah. Left at Hotel Alpha to parking.
Hotel Alpha Park, Delta 565.
How many airports can you name where there's lava rocks between the taxiways? Most airports just have grass or concrete in these spaces, but we're at the unique Kona Airport. We vacated the runway right near the ramp, so the taxi-in was short, and as you can see here, this airport does not have jet bridges. This is a win for any aviation enthusiast. That was an absolutely beautiful approach to Kona. Lava. How many airports are there where there's lava between the taxiways? It's amazing. All right, I am the first off of the Boeing 757 here in Kona. This is absolutely beautiful. I love it when you get to walk off an airplane like this. It was great to exit the airplane in the great outdoors, and what's also very unique about this airport is that much of the terminal building itself is outdoors. There were very few moments where there was a roof over my head or walls on my side during the terminal experience. This probably only works in places like this. Baggage claim here at the Kona airport, and we're literally outdoors. The street is right over there. So unique. The sun is about to set, but this video isn't ending here. I'm going to take you with me as I explore the big island of Hawaii. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that fantastic approach into the Kona airport. Come along with me as I explore the big island of Hawaii. One of my first meals on this island was at a traditional restaurant serving local cuisine in Kona. There are so many places like this here. The next day, in the harbor of Kona, I boarded a small boat for a glass-bottom boat tour. What unique sights down there. On this island, I enjoy visiting the various resorts. They're all first-rate and have fantastic dining venues. And, as you saw when I landed at the Kona airport, this is a volcanic island and there's lava everywhere, so I decided to make a visit to an active volcano. I've made it to the other side of the island. There's actually another airport here that's close to the volcanoes. I did fly into Kona airport, there's Hilo airport, but I just drove to this side and the view is absolutely spectacular. This is Kilauea, an active volcano. Its highest point is only at around 4,000 feet, and it doesn't have a typical volcano look like a stratovolcano does, but during the time of my visit, it was the only volcano where I could see some activity. It was especially nice to get close to the steam pits and feel the heat emanating from the earth. This volcano offers several viewpoints. I'm inside a lava tube right now. This is interesting. This is an actual underground tube that lava once flowed through. This was like being in a cold, windy, and dark tunnel. Really neat. And there's even a beautiful winery right here near the summit. This is Volcano Winery, the southernmost winery in the United States. Wine with a volcanic theme is quite interesting. I'm just making one stop here at Rainbow Falls before I head back to the other side of the island. Hawaii is known for its waterfalls, and this one did not disappoint. The next day, my goal was to reach the highest point in Hawaii, Mauna Kea, at nearly 14,000 feet. I joined a tour that left from Kona, and I made sure that I sat on the left side of the bus. Why? Because I knew I'd be passing by the Kona airport. If you watch my channel, you know how much emphasis is placed on seat selection. And the left side of the bus offered a nice view of Maui, the neighboring island. Let's head up the volcano. Well, I'm really enjoying my time here in Hawaii, and you know what? I just can't keep away from the skies. This time, it's climbing to the skies via a different method. I am going to the summit of Mauna Kea, a very, very high volcano, almost 14,000 feet here on the big island of Hawaii. I'm currently at 9,200 feet, taking a break so that I can acclimate myself to the higher altitude. The air is very, very thin up here, so I want to make sure I'm playing it safe. The view up here is beautiful. I love it. I can't wait to get to the summit. So to compare this to being on an airplane, I'm currently at the altitude where the Wi-Fi comes on as we approach 10,000 feet. This is a dormant volcano, but it's very accessible. I spent about 45 minutes at the visitor center as recommended by the tour guide. Even though the road is accessible for cars with four-wheel drive, it's best to go with someone who knows the lay of the land. It was a very scenic and bumpy road to the top. My ride has just given me a little break. I am now at 12,000 feet. It's getting chilly up here. I was also told not to move very quickly because there is not a lot of oxygen up here. We're now ready to reach the summit. Along with the beautiful views, there were many astronomical observatories. At such a high altitude, the air is dry and often above the clouds, making for great viewing conditions. I'm up at the telescope level, and boy, is it cold up here now. We are at the summit, close to 14,000 feet, and in the distance you can see the island of Maui. You'll recall that when we landed on runway 17 at the Kona airport, we turned to the left and then descended right over Maui and flew straight in that direction towards runway 17. It was such an enchanting evening. Everything from the view to the fact that I was one of the highest possible allowed altitudes for breathing was really special. It was one of the most unique parts of this trip. But it's not over yet. Let's head on over to the town of Mauna Kea for a special treat. Well, one thing that I like to do is check out some of the local cuisine. I'm in a town now called Mauna Kea, and I'm going to try out this restaurant here called Tex Drive. They've got world famous malasadas. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to try it. Hello, I'm just driving through. What's a malasada?
It's a deep fried Portuguese donut. You can get it filled or placed.
Okay. I'll try a plain one, please.
Plain? Sure.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I've got my malasada here. It has a very interesting history. I just learned a little bit more about it. In the 19th century, the Portuguese came to Hawaii and they brought one of their traditional foods with them, the malasada, to the island, and it has actually become a very popular Hawaiian treat. Let's see how it is. Thumbs up, I like it. The town itself is near Hawaii's North Shore, and its main shopping district is quaint with small shops and restaurants. There's definitely a Portuguese influence in this town. I really enjoyed walking around, taking it all in, but something even more majestic was on my radar. I took a 10-minute drive to the Waipo Valley Lookout. With its steep cliffs overlooking Hawaii's northern shore, I felt like I was a million miles away from anything. On the way back, I had a nice treat at a local fresh fruit stand. Drinking out of a coconut? Yes, please. Well, thank you, Delta 757-300, for bringing me here. I'm having a great time in Hawaii. Well, it's time for my trip to come to an end as I get ready to fly on another 757-300. Before heading to the terminal, I checked out the airport a bit, first by looking at the Kona VORTAC, a navigational aid at the airport. Then it was off to the passenger terminal area of the Ellison Onizuka Airport. I've been to other airports in Hawaii, and they are very similar to this one, but this is the most outdoorsy one that I've visited. Well, my trip to the Big Island is now over, and I'm getting ready to board another 757-300 to Seattle. This is the way to board an aircraft. I'm standing by the front landing gear of my Boeing 757-300. It's an ETOPS aircraft. Let's head on over to Seattle. I wish every airport had a boarding process like this. This is fun. All right, well, I'm gonna end this video here. I'm in row 1 of the 757. First step, of course, open up the large window. I'm gonna head on over to Seattle. I'm not gonna film this flight because it's a red eye and I do need to sleep. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I invite you to click on the subscribe button below and you'll be alerted as to the next time I post another great video like this. Thanks, everybody.